If you observe Japan from the outside, you will find wonders, highly advanced robots, almost non-existent crime, a fascinating culture, the world's third largest economy, a healthy population, and renowned companies. It seems like a true paradise on Earth. However, a closer inspection reveals a darker side of life in Japan that remains unknown to most of the world. Japan is home to millions of individuals who have failed to integrate into society and have ended up completely isolated, without employment, without marriage, and without the prospect of a normal and happy life. Currently, these people make up about 15% of the country's population, being part of a tragic story that highlights the alarming decline and a sign of a disturbing future in Japan. This is the dark side of Japan, the lost generation. Part 1: The Economic Giant. Let's go back to the 1980s, a time when Japan was considered the next economic superpower, with the potential to surpass the United States. Many believed that Japan would completely dominate the global economy and become the most powerful nation in the world, similar to what we see with China today. In the United States, there were concerns about this prospect, and many believed that Japan would conquer the global economic scene. Movies like Die Hard, Rising Sun, and Blade Runner depicted Japanese companies as world dominators. This expectation was the result of the so-called Japanese miracle, a period in which the country experienced remarkable economic growth over 3 consecutive decades. The Japanese adopted a unique economic system that was considered superior to the model adopted by Western countries at the time. Basically, large Japanese companies formed massive corporate conglomerates and collaborated to strengthen each other. The Japanese government supported these corporations by providing funding, resulting in significant capital for expansion and internationalization, while foreign companies struggled to enter the Japanese market. Although it may seem unfair, this system worked effectively for Japan. Japanese company stocks appreciated, the country's products were popular globally, and the Japanese believed that by investing in education and higher education, they would have job security in one of these major corporations. Japan was at its peak. However, suddenly, everything changed. Part 2: The Burst of the Bubble. In 1991, Japan was experiencing rapid growth and had already earned the title of the world's second-largest economy, trailing only the United States. Asset prices such as houses and stocks also saw a substantial increase. By the late 1980s, the growth had become so exaggerated that many believed this trend would continue indefinitely. This led people to invest even more, hoping for ever higher returns. Meanwhile, the Bank of Japan was lending money recklessly, without questioning how that money would be used. And then, suddenly, the bubble burst. In 1990, the stocks of major corporations dropped by 43% and asset prices plummeted. This resulted in a significant decrease in people's purchasing power, and confidence in investing in Japanese companies vanished. This event marked the end of Japan's golden economic era, and things began to deteriorate gradually. In the years that followed, it became clear that the Japanese system was facing severe problems. Business and government corruption were widespread, with cases ranging from insider trading to stock manipulation, fraud, and bribery. The bank had lent so much money that it gave rise to hundreds of zombie companies, businesses that should have gone bankrupt years earlier but continued to exist thanks to the continuous supply of cheap state-provided funds. In a decade, Japan went from being an economic tiger to being called the sick man of Asia. Part 3: The Emergence of the Lost Generation. Normally, when a country's economy faces difficulties, some people suffer, but the situation eventually improves. However, in Japan, the situation was different. The economic recession didn't just affect a select group but an entire generation, and many of these individuals never managed to recover. This leads us to question why. To understand this phenomenon, one must grasp how the job market and employment acquisition work in Japan, which differs significantly from other job markets around the world. A corporate career in Japan begins with a highly complex process of job hunting. Companies exclusively hired recent graduates once a year in large numbers. These candidates had to undergo a series of interviews and tests, resulting in securing a job that would last for decades, often until retirement, in line with the practice of lifetime employment. Part 4: The Uncertain Future. The challenges faced by the lost generation are not limited to affecting just their own destinies, they have repercussions throughout Japanese society. A considerable portion of individuals in their 30s and 40s finds themselves out of the job market, relying on their parents' resources and, as a result, struggling to build their own families. This phenomenon has contributed to the decline in Japan's population. Around 15% of the population comprises the lost generation, and they play a vital role in the economy. They are the ones who traditionally would invest in homes, cars, and food, stimulating the domestic market. However, due to their precarious situation, these expenditures have significantly decreased, causing negative impacts on the country's economy. Furthermore, Japan is facing another significant challenge known as superaging, which entails a constant increase in the proportion of elderly individuals in the Japanese population. Nearly 30% of the Japanese population is in the elderly age group, and this demographic aging is occurring at a faster rate than anywhere else in the world. This is partially a result of the lost generation having far fewer children. Over time, it is projected that the number of elderly individuals will be on par with the number of working-age people. Around the world, the elderly rely on the taxes paid by the working-age population to support Social Security, but in Japan, this is becoming an increasingly challenging task. Additionally, the lost generation has given rise to another social problem that is progressively detrimental to the survival of Japanese society, the phenomenon known as hikikomori. These individuals are mostly Japanese men who have voluntarily chosen to completely isolate themselves from society, spending their lives in total seclusion, without leaving their homes or establishing any form of social contact. They have become financially dependent on their parents. The first cases of this phenomenon were among the original members of the lost generation, men currently in their 30s and 40s, who failed to meet Japanese societal expectations regarding finding employment and starting a family, leading them to completely abandon this path. If you found this content interesting and informative, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give a like to the video to support our work. By doing so, you help us continue bringing in-depth analysis on global and social issues. Stay tuned for more relevant content and share your opinions in the comments. Your support is crucial to us. Until next time.